I knew something was wrong the moment she said, "I'm still at the salon. Don't wait up." The words came fast, almost rushed, like she'd rehearsed them. And even though her tone was light, something in the background was too quiet. No chatter. No hair dryers. No clinking tools. Nothing. Just silence. I stared at my phone long after the call ended, holding it the way someone holds a glass they're afraid to drop. I wasn't suspicious at first. Not exactly. But there was a pinch under my ribs that wouldn't go away, the kind that shows up only when something has already begun to break. Emma usually loved talking about her salon visits. The gossip. The jokes her stylist made. The color choices she spent hours debating. But that night, she didn't mention any of it. She didn't even tell me what she was getting done. And something else. She'd left the house without her usual makeup bag. Not a big thing. Not enough to accuse anyone of anything. But when small things start adding up, they stop being small. I tried distracting myself with the TV, but the house felt hollow without her. The quiet didn't settle. It pressed in. Every so often, I glanced at the clock, and each time it felt like time was jogging instead of walking. I checked the front window more than I should have, half expecting her car to pull in, half hoping she'd text with something that made sense. By 10, she still wasn't home. By 11, she stopped answering her phone. I called the salon, mostly to calm my nerves, to reassure myself that she was exactly where she said she'd be. A woman picked up. Her voice was friendly at first, the way customer service voices always are. "Hi, this is, Emma's husband." She said she had an appointment tonight, and... Tonight? The woman let out a soft, puzzled breath. "We close at 7. That pinch under my ribs twisted. "Are you sure?" She said she was there. Maybe she stayed late? Maybe someone fit her in last minute. "No," she said. "I'm her stylist. And she hasn't come in for at least 3 months. She canceled her last few appointments." I didn't answer. I didn't breathe. For a second, I felt like I was staring down a staircase I hadn't realized I was standing on the edge of. One step forward, and I'd fall. The stylist must have sensed the silence. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah," I lied. "Sorry, must have mixed up the day." But even I could hear my voice cracking. I hung up and sank onto the arm of the couch. My hands trembled. My thoughts scattered like birds startled out of a tree. Everything felt wrong. Everything felt loud inside my head. And still, I tried to find excuses. Maybe she forgot her appointment date. Maybe she was somewhere else and didn't want to admit it. Maybe her phone died. Maybe. But lies only need one hole to sink the whole ship. And there were too many holes now. When her car finally appeared in the driveway at 12:23 a.m., I watched from the window. The headlights washed across the siding, then blinked out. She took a moment before opening the door, like she needed time to prepare her expression. She walked in with a breezy smile. "You're still up?" I nodded, but didn't speak. She dropped her purse on the table and brushed her hair back. It didn't look freshly styled. It looked the same as it did that morning. I forced my voice to sound calm. "How was the salon?" She froze for just half a beat. Someone else might not have noticed it.
"I did. It was fine," she said.
"Took longer than I expected." "You look the same." She laughed lightly. "It was just a trim. Nothing major." Her eyes didn't meet mine. "Why didn't you answer your phone?" I asked. She shrugged. "Battery died." I glanced at her purse. A faint glow peeked through the unzipped top, her phone, lighting up with some notification. She followed my gaze.
"Oh."
I guess it wasn't as dead as I thought. Her lies tangled together without grace. She used to be a terrible liar. That was one of the things I loved about her. She was transparent, honest to a fault. Now, every sentence felt like a half-built bridge over a canyon. She headed to the bedroom. "I'm exhausted. I'm going to shower." I didn't follow her. I just listened to the water running, the soft thud of her setting things down, the hum of a woman trying to wash off more than sweat and makeup. When she finally crawled into bed, she turned her back to me. "Good night," she murmured. I stared at the ceiling long after she fell asleep. The next morning, she acted normal. Too normal. She kissed my cheek, made coffee, asked about my day. She kept her tone low and easy, but she avoided looking at me for more than a second. By noon, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to the salon myself. The place was small but warm, decorated with framed quotes about confidence and beauty. The same woman I'd spoken to stepped out from behind the counter. Her eyebrows rose.
Oh,
"You called last night." "Yeah," I said, clearing my throat. "I just wanted to check something." She gave me a sympathetic smile. "You sound worried." I didn't deny it. "Your wife really hasn't been in," she said gently. "If she told you she was here, I hope everything's all right between you." Something in her tone made my eyes sting. Not pity, not judgment, just the kind of softness people use when they see someone trying hard not to break. "Did she say anything?" I asked. "Like why she stopped coming?" The stylist shook her head.
no.
She just kept canceling. She sounded distracted, rushed. That matched the woman who walked into the house last night. The woman who smelled a little like perfume she didn't own. The woman who held her phone tight, screen always turned down. I drove home with my heart thudding unevenly. The truth wasn't clear yet, but I could feel it circling me.
Big.
Heavy. Getting closer. That night, I watched her more carefully. "How was your day?" I asked as she cooked. "Good," she said quickly. Too quickly. "Busy." "Who'd you have lunch with?" She flicked her eyes toward the cutting board. "I just grabbed something alone." Her hand trembled for a second when she lifted the knife. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "Of course." She forced a small smile. "Why wouldn't it be?" I studied her. The tight jaw. The stiff shoulders. The way she kept touching her phone as if waiting for a message. "Did you want to talk about anything?" I tried. She went still for a moment.
No.
"Everything's fine." She said it like a line she'd practiced. Later, when she showered again before bed, something she never did twice in one day, I checked her phone. I didn't want to. I'd always promised myself I wouldn't. But promises start to feel different when the person you made them with changes the rules. Her phone was locked. It never used to be. My chest tightened. She stepped out of the bathroom, damp hair in a towel, and froze when she saw the phone in my hands. "Why are you holding that?" she asked quietly. "It buzzed." I lied. "I thought it might be important." Her eyes narrowed. "I'll take it." She walked over and snatched it from my fingers with a grip too stiff to be casual. Her knuckles were pale. She hit the screen against her chest as she read something. "Everything okay?" I asked. She nodded, but her face had drained of color. She turned away. "I'm going to bed." I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I watched her chest rise and fall while the clock ticked past 2 in the morning. My mind chased itself in circles, every possible explanation tearing at the edges of my sanity. By dawn, I knew one thing. If something was going on, it wasn't small anymore. The next day, she left early. Earlier than she needed to. She said she had errands. She didn't say what. She was vague. Soft around the edges. Like she hoped I wouldn't ask too many questions. But I'd stopped being afraid of the answers. I followed her. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't keep walking in circles inside my own doubts. I kept my distance, letting a few cars stay between us. She drove across town, not toward any errands I recognized. Not toward her sister's place. Not toward work. She turned into the parking lot of a small hotel. My breath caught in my throat. I pulled into another row, far enough not to be noticed, close enough to see her get out of the car. She hesitated at the entrance, smoothing her shirt, checking her hair, then walked inside. She didn't look nervous. She didn't look conflicted. She looked excited. That expression hit me harder than anything else. I sat there, trembling, hands clamped to the steering wheel. Every denial I had been holding onto fell apart piece by piece. She wasn't at the salon. She wasn't running errands. She wasn't lost or confused or overwhelmed. She was meeting someone. And she'd been doing it for a while. I stayed in the car for 10 minutes, breathing in and out, trying to gather whatever was left of myself. Then I opened the door. And I walked toward the hotel entrance. The lobby smelled faintly of stale air freshener and overworked carpet shampoo. A TV on the wall played the morning news, but the volume was low enough that all I heard was the steady hum of the building. The clerk looked up from the computer with a bored expression, barely glancing at me before returning to whatever he was typing. I didn't know what I planned to do. I didn't have a script. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I couldn't sit in my car any longer, letting my imagination torture me with images that felt too real to dismiss. I stood near the vending machine, pretending to look at drinks I didn't want. I kept my head down, watching the elevator through the reflection in the glass. Minutes passed.
Slow.
Heavy. Every sound felt amplified. The click of shoes, the ding of the elevator, the sweep of the lobby door. My stomach twisted with every movement. At last, the elevator doors opened. Emma stepped out. She wasn't alone. A man walked beside her, a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, with dark hair and a clean shirt that looked a little too fitted for something casual. He kept his distance at first, but when they reached the center of the lobby, she brushed his arm with a faint smile. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't romantic in some exaggerated way, but it was familiar.
Warm.
The kind of gesture people don't make unless they're comfortable, unless they're close. I froze. My heart fumbled in my chest, each beat landing in the wrong place. I felt a strange sense of detachment, like I was watching someone else's life unfold in front of me. She'd never touched me like that in weeks. Months, maybe. Not lightly. Not naturally. Not without thinking. The man said something. Emma laughed, a soft, easy laugh she hadn't used with me in a long time. He reached for her hand, and she let him. That was the moment something inside me cracked, not loudly, not violently, but with the quiet firmness of a branch snapping under slow pressure. They started toward the exit, toward the parking lot, toward me. I stepped back from the vending machine, suddenly aware that I needed air. I walked toward the hallway by the ice machine, anything to avoid crossing paths with them too soon. But fate didn't care about my timing. Emma turned her head, her gaze drifting across the lobby. Her eyes landed on me. She stopped moving. The man followed her stare and looked at me too, his face tightening with a brief flicker of surprise before he masked it. Emma's lips parted slightly, breath caught, cheeks draining of color. I walked toward them, each step slower than the last. My heartbeat was the loudest sound in the room. "Hi," I said quietly. Her voice stuttered. "W, what are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same." The man stepped subtly between us, not fully blocking me, but enough to make a point. "Maybe we should talk outside," he suggested to her. His tone was cautious, not aggressive. He wasn't trying to escalate anything. That almost made it worse. He didn't see me as a threat. He didn't feel guilty enough to hide. Emma didn't answer him. Her eyes stayed glued to me, widening with a fear that wasn't grief or sorrow, just panic at being caught. "We're talking here," I said, steadier than I expected. She flinched at my voice. I can explain," she tried. "It's not what you think." I gave a hollow laugh. "Then what is it?" "Because you told me you were running errands." She looked down. "I know. You told me you were at the salon 2 nights ago." She closed her eyes. "I'm sorry. And they haven't seen you in months." Her shoulders curled inward. The truth pressed down on her until she looked small, smaller than I'd ever seen her. The man sighed quietly and took a step back. "I'll wait outside," he told her. She nodded without looking at him, and he left through the glass doors. I watched him go, but he didn't look back. He walked away with the posture of a man who already knew the damage was done. When the door closed behind him, the silence between us grew thick. I swallowed hard. "How long?" Emma hugged her arms around herself. "I don't know." "Don't lie again." She shook her head. "A few months." I stared at her, at the woman I'd built a life with. The woman I trusted more than anyone. The woman who used to reach for my hand in grocery stores, touch my back when she passed behind me, fall asleep with her fingers curled against my arm. "You could have told me," I said. My voice cracked on the last word. She sniffed, eyes shining even though no tears fell yet. "I was going to." I just didn't know how. You managed to lie pretty easily. That's not fair. Neither is this. She looked away, blinking rapidly. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to? I repeated slowly. You looked happy with him. Her breath hitched. I wasn't trying to rub anything in your face. You're missing the point. You looked happy. Happier than I've seen you in a long time. Emma's fingers twitched at her sides. I don't know what to say. Start with why. She took in a shaky breath, her voice small when she finally spoke. Because we stopped talking. Because every argument felt like a wall we couldn't get around. Because I felt alone even when we were sitting in the same room. I blinked at her. The words cut deeper than I expected. So you cheated? Her lips trembled. I'm not saying it was right. I know it wasn't. I was tired of feeling invisible. Invisible. My chest tightened. Emma, I was right there. Every day.
Trying.
Holding us together. You're the one who pulled away. You're the one who shut down. She wiped at her cheek. Her voice wavered, low and fragile. I know. Why him? I asked. He listened, she whispered. He made me feel seen again. The honesty in her tone crushed something inside me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cruel. It was worse. It was real. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The lobby hummed around us, the TV muttering news neither of us heard, the air conditioner buzzing softly above. Did you love him? I asked. She stared at the floor.
No.
But I liked how I felt with him. That answer hurt more than a yes would have. Emma, I said quietly, you could have talked to me. I tried. You didn't hear me. Her voice trembled. I didn't want this. I didn't wake up one day and decide to ruin everything. I felt my jaw clench. You still did. She reached toward me hesitantly, but I stepped back. The movement broke her. Her face crumpled, shoulders folding and like she was collapsing from the inside. What now? She whispered. The question hit me in the chest. I didn't know. I didn't have a map for this. I didn't have instructions for how to breathe with a wound I couldn't even see fully yet. I need space, I said. She flinched. Are you leaving? For now. Her breath shook. Please don't make any decisions today. Not while you're hurting. I nodded.
Fine.
But I can't go home with you right now. She wiped her eyes again. Okay. There was no fight left in her. No excuses. No attempts to rewrite the story. Just a woman standing in the lobby of a hotel where she shouldn't have been, watching her marriage slide through her fingers. I walked to the exit.
She didn't follow.
Outside, the air was cold enough to sting. The man she'd been with sat on a bench near the parking lot, looking uneasy. He watched me for a second, then looked away. He wasn't smug. He wasn't satisfied. He just looked like someone who didn't know where to put his hands or his guilt.
I didn't speak to him.
I didn't need to. I got in my car, closed the door, and sat in the silence. The truth was simple. Emma wasn't the same woman she used to be. And maybe I wasn't the same man she needed. But knowing that didn't make the pain smaller. It didn't make the betrayal easier. It didn't make breathing any less difficult. I rested my forehead against the steering wheel, eyes closed, letting the weight settle. The ache was deep, steady, and merciless. But beneath it, something else stirred, resolve, maybe. Or the beginning of it. When I finally drove away, I didn't look back at the hotel. I didn't need to see it again to remember what happened inside. Some truths stay with you whether you want them to, or not. Some endings don't slam shut. They just quietly stop holding together. And some heartbreaks don't explode. They unravel, thread by thread, until you're left holding pieces of a life that no longer fits the way it once did.